Today is Tuesday, September 3rd, and we are continuing right on with Eureka Math Module 1, Lesson 5. Okay? And today's learning goal says, I can use what I know about place value to name numbers in expanded, unit, and word forms. We've talked about two of those forms before. We've talked about expanded form and word form. So you should know what those mean. Yes? The new one to us today is unit form, and we're going to be focusing on all three, but especially unit form so that we can make sure we know what those forms are. Okay? There's one form we talked about before that's not on this list. Expanded, unit, and word form. There's one form we've talked about that's not in this learning goal. What form is that, Mira? Standard form, because that's just numbers. Okay? I assume you know how to write numbers. Yes? Good. As we mentioned, we've learned four different forms of, or there are four different ways we can express numbers. There's the standard form, which is the number written in numbers. There's the expanded form, which really places emphasis on the place value of each digit. Yes? There's word form, which is using words to say the number. And then there's something new today called unit form. Okay, so let's start with what we know. In your notebook, write down standard form, and then write the standard form of this number that you see. If the standard form is 3,047, we know expanded form means we have to look at each digit, starting with the biggest one, and think about the value. What's the value of that 3? Shobit? 3,000 because it's in the thousands place. Is there anything of value in the hundreds place? No. So the next one is the 4. What's the value of that 4? Tatiana?
The value of the 4 is
40 because it's in the tens place. Very good. And of course the value of the 7 is 7 because it's in the ones place. That's one way to write expanded form. As we've talked about, another way is to really expand it out and say we have 3 copies of 1,000. We have 4 copies of 10. And we have 7 copies of ones. Go ahead and write the expanded form. You can choose whichever way you'd like. Now, next up we have word form. We know for word form, we have to look at the periods. How many periods do we have in this number 3,047? Show me with your fingers. How many periods do we have? 2. What digit, or what do we have in the thousands period? What number do we have there altogether?
3.
3. So we have 3,000. Okay. And then in the next period, what number do you guys see? Altogether? 47. So in word form, this number is 3,047. So far, this is all review. Yes?
Yes.
Good. Let's move on to the new part. Now, unit form asks us to think about the number in the different kinds of units. Okay? And for unit form, there's never just one right answer. Okay? What helps us think about the number in units is thinking about the place value chart. Okay? If the decimal point is here, that means this is the ones, this is the tens, this is the hundreds, and this is the thousands. Yes? Now if I write this number, 3047, I could think of it as 3 thousands, 4 tens, and 7 ones. Yes? I could also think of it as 30 hundreds. Can't I? Right? Or I could think of it as 304, what? Tens, huh? Or I could think of it as 3,407 ones. So I could think of this in many different ways in units because we know that 3,000s is really the same as 30 hundreds, right? Which is also really the same as 300 tens, but since I have 4, 304 tens. Okay, so do you guys see unit form is just thinking flexibly in regrouping and grouping the different units? Okay, so I could say this is 304 tens and 7 ones. I could also say it's 30 hundreds and 47 ones. Does that make sense? So for unit form, there's never just one right answer. There's several answers depending on how you want to group the units. Well, we know that on the place value chart, the thousands place is this one, right? So in standard form, 1,000th could be written like this, 0.001. As a quick detour, does this first 0 have any value? Does the 0 in the ones place have any value?
No.
Does it need to be there? Put another way, if I wrote it like this, 0.001. Is that still correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do I ask you to put the 0 here? Well, because a lot of times it can be really hard not to see this first decimal point. Do you guys agree? Because if we wrote it really small like this, could you easily miss it?
Yes.
And if there's no decimal point there, what's the value of that 1? 1. But if there's a decimal point there, what's the value of the 1? Is that the same thing or is it very different? So by putting this 0 in front, it makes our eyes see that decimal point much better. Does that make sense? Okay, so just get in the habit. You don't have to. It's not wrong if you don't put it, but it's just more precise and more clear to the person reading your math work if there is a 0 there. Now there's actually another way to write 1,000th in standard form, and that's using a fraction. You could write it like 1/1000th. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, in expanded form, using fractions, we could write 1 copy of 1,000. There's not much to expand here because we only have 1 digit. In decimal form, we could write 1 copy of 0.001 or 1 copy of 1,000. Now, because this is unit form, because there's only 1 digit and this is unit form, there's not much to unitize. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just 1,000th. It could also be 10,000ths, but we're not doing that in 5th grade. Okay, so for this one in unit form, it's just 1,000th. Turn and talk to the people next to you. How come for unit form it's just 1,000th this time? Moving on to unit form, which again is the new form we're talking about today. Remember, unit form, it really helps to look at a place value chart. Okay? Remember, for unit form, we could group numbers in different ways. We could think of it as 3,000, or we could think of it as 30 whats? 30 whats? Look at what I've boxed here. 30, what place value am I in here? 30 tens. Or we can think of it as 300, no, sorry, was this 30 tens, guys?
No.
What was it, 30? Hundreds. What is this, 300?
Tens.
Okay. What is this? 30,000 tenths. Do you guys see that? So you just look at whatever number it is and look at where the rightmost place value place is. Or, what is this? 300,000 hundredths. Okay, what if I put all of it together? What number do I have there? Think about it as commas. 3,000,003. What place value is this? Oh, okay. Good. Because I know it's 13,000ths, I'm going to write the number 13 in my place value chart. And then I'm going to make it so that my rightmost place value is in the what's place? Thousands. So if I want that 3, because of 13,000ths, if I want that 3 to be in the thousandths place, where would I need to put the decimal point? If I put the decimal point here, just look up at the board for a second. If I put the decimal point here, what place value position is the 3 in right now? Everyone?
1.
We don't want that. We want it to be in the?
Thousands.
Okay, let me move it. If I put it here, where the 3 is now in the?
Tens.
We don't want that. We want the?
Thousands.
Okay, if I move it here, the 3 is now in the?
Hundreds.
We don't want that. We want the?
Thousands.
If I move it here, it's in the? We want that. Okay, so this is how unit form works. It tells you where you want that rightmost position to be. So in order for that to be the thousands, I need to add a 0 here, put the decimal point, and do that. So now we know the standard form is either 0.013, or how would we write that in a fraction form? Well, it's very easy. 13 thousandths. Cool? Okay, let's test what we know and see if we can write it in expanded form. For expanded form, we're looking at each digit by itself. The first digit that has value is the 1. The 1 is in the what's place? Hundredths. So it's 1 copy of 100th. The next digit that has value is the 3. The 3 is in the what's place? Thousands. So it's 3 copies of 1,000th. Of course, the fraction. Oh, I made a fabulous fail, you guys. Can anyone find my fabulous fail? See if you can find my fabulous fail. It's in my expanded form somewhere. Where is it? Taya? Yeah, I don't want to multiply my different parts. I want to add them. Be careful. Be very precise. Okay, the fraction way would be 1 copy of 100 plus 3 copies of 1,000. Okay, very good. What's the word form? How many periods are in this number? How many periods are in the number? Do we have a thousands period? Do we?
Oh, no.
Do we have a ones period? Kind of, it's 0, so no. We just have the decimal part. Okay, so we only have 1 period. What number do you see in the period?
13.
Okay, and what place is it in?
You can't write 13 in word form.
That's true, Jonah is right. I have to use words only. 13,000. 13,000s. Violet went like this. Ugh, Miss O. Why did she do that? Why did she smack herself on the head and say, oh, another fabulous fail, Miss O? This is such a common one that a lot of 5th graders make, so Miss O always makes it on purpose to make a point. Gaurav, what's my point?
You said 13,000.
It needs to be 13,000. It makes a difference, doesn't it? Good. Okay, news alert. Breaking news. Sorry to interrupt your math programming for this very important news. Breaking news. Whenever you're doing word form and you see this dot, that dot is always represented by the same word. The word is and. Okay, not 25 dot something, not 25 decimal point something. It's 25 and. So every time you see a decimal point, automatically write and.